All right, everybody, we are going to start because we have given ourselves a challenge here where we need to end our sessions by 8:25 for reasons that I will share with you in a moment. So I know we've still got people who are logging in and in the waiting room and whatnot, but this will be recorded. If you miss a minute or two up front because you came in late, you can catch them in the recording. So, hello, I'm Vina Jones-Cox, and the fellow in the Keikaha shirt who is appearing right below me on my screen, but probably not on your screen, is Bill Cook, who is the other person in this thing that we have brewed up and then put out to the world and then got a little bit out of control. And you will see a lot of us over the course of the next 8 weeks. And I wanted to give you a little background on why Bill and I are here. It's because we've done this class together called Ultimate Creative Deal Structuring Workshop. We did one in 2020, we did one in 2021. We're going to do one early in 2022. And we stay in touch with the people who've taken that class throughout the year. And we hear them say, you know, I'm struggling with this, or I'd like more about that. And we were talking and we said, you know, we should do, leading up to the next class, we should do a series of like really digging in on some things that are like skill based, not just like theory based, but like, how do I do this? And we should do that for the creative finance grad, the ultimate creative deal structuring grads, and the people who are signed up for 2022. And that was just like an idea one day. And then a couple of days later, we sat down and said, well, you know, particularly people seem to want to know about negotiation and evaluation. And, you know, they know how to do the creative deal structures, but then they go out into the world and they might struggle with some of the skills. And if we did this class, then we could get feedback from them on what we need to focus on more in the workshop. Boy, this is just sounding better and better, because every year that we do the workshop, it's a little bit different because Bill and I have new experiences and the market has changed and all of that sort of stuff. So then we laid out what the classes were going to be, and we started outlining them, and we started going, this is so good. Like, we're really proud of our own stuff. We spend a lot of time patting ourselves on the back about how great our education is. And we said, you know, there's a lot of people who do creative deals who haven't been to Ultimate, but like they have stuff to add and they could give good feedback. And there's also a lot of people who are interested in doing creative deals. And man, that interest has exploded in the last couple of years as the market has gotten super hot and prices have gotten super high, and sellers are apparently willing to hold out to get tippy top prices. People are getting interested in creative deal structures because with creative deal structures, you can give them top prices and still make a bunch of money for yourself. So we've seen all these, you know, just people we run into at real estate associations and whatnot saying, I want to know a lot more about that. So while our original goal was help these few hundred alumni and, you know, future attendees, not to mention getting that room block that Bill committed to at the Tampa Marriott on February 4th through 6th filled up so that we don't pay $40,000 for rooms that aren't full. We also found out in these discussions that we both have this like just general interest in developing the biggest educated creative deal structuring community that we possibly can. And part of that's just like intellectual interest, but part of it's a little selfish, because when there's more people out there who know how to do creative deals, there's more people for Bill and I to do deals with who understand the kind of deals we're doing and build relationships with those folks, and honestly just talk shop. You know, it's really fun to talk about creative deal structures with people who understand creative deal structures. So then we had this brilliant idea about 2 weeks ago, which was, you know what? Let's just invite everybody. Let's just put it on our Facebook pages and email our lists and tell our friends who are into creative deal structuring. And that just seemed like such a wonderful idea. What we did not realize was exactly how big that interest in creative deals was. We did not know that it was going to turn out to be over 1,000 people registered, which meant that we were going to have to figure out how to manage a group that big on Zoom, because secret I learned about Zoom 2 days ago, you cannot have more than 1,000 people in a Zoom meeting, no matter how much you pay Zoom. And then we started getting into this, oh my gosh, the biggest online event I've ever done is 350, and managing the questions was like this whole thing in itself. And we started looking at who had registered, and we've got a lot of folks who've taken Ultimate Creative Deal Structuring, and we have a lot of folks who we recognize as being like new to real estate, just straight up new to real estate. Every state in the union, ages 19 to 85. I mean, it's like crazy how wide this whole interest in creative deals has gotten. And also, we were like, yeah, if we do this class for 350 people, then, you know, we'll probably fill up the class in Tampa. And we didn't realize that by the time we were talking on December 1st, that class was going to be more than half sold out. And we were going to be talking to 1,000 people who also might want to come. So here's what you can expect over the next 8 sessions. We are going to start on time, which is 7 o'clock Eastern, and we are going to end on time, which is 8:25 Eastern, because the alumni of Ultimate Creative Deal Making have a weekly support / deal structuring call where Bill will get on, I'll get on, they talk to each other, they bring deals, they say, I got this call from the seller and here's the facts, and I'm kind of looking for ideas about the best way to put this together. Here's my exit strategy. And that starts at 8:30. And since almost all of them are here, we promised them that we would have them out by 8:25 so that they could get on their call by 8:30. You will get the recordings the next day, and you will probably want to listen to them, because you will probably need to listen to them again to fully get what's being said. We are not going to have time to answer the questions of what right now is 676 people on this call, but we discussed that a lot, and we have come up with some ways to make the fact that we're not going to be able to do it in the 85 minutes we have still work for you. Number one, you're going to see a person in the Zoom called, he has named himself Smart Boy Goddess Assistant. His name is actually Matt. He is my significant other. And he has been to all the creative deal structuring stuff. He's very educated in that topic, and he is going to answer questions, as many of the questions that he can, that people ask in the chat. There are also a couple of hundred creative deal structuring graduates who could also help out with that if they were so inclined and didn't feel like they were going to miss what they wanted to hear by being involved in the chat. And we have added an additional call every week. So tomorrow and every Thursday between noon and 1 Eastern, Bill and I will be on Zoom to answer your questions directly, preferably questions about the previous night's deals or topic or whatever it is. We'll answer as many as we possibly can in that hour, and hopefully between those 3 things, we can get your need to ask questions answered. And Matt's posting the link to that right now, but also, and I'll post it again at the end, but also you'll get an email tomorrow that says, here's the link to the recording, and here is how you sign up for the noontime phone calls. Now, if you are brand new to the idea of creative deals, or you're like really good at one kind of creative deal, like you do subject twos, but you don't know anything about lease options or owner carrybacks, There will be times during this 8 weeks when you feel hopelessly lost. I'm just telling you that there absolutely will. That is completely normal. And in fact, I would argue that it is good. It is good when you realize I don't understand that whole last paragraph that they just talked about, because that's what's going to tell you, I need to study this thing more. I need to find out what this term means. So these are my suggestions. Stick with it. Listen, here's how new investors are. Oh man, I'm completely lost. This is above my head. I give up. I don't want to feel stupid. This is how you are when you've been in the business for 30 years. I want to find a room where I'm the stupidest person in it. Because how else do I learn? If I'm not around people who are talking about stuff that I want to know but don't know, and then ask them questions, how do I get better than I am right now? So when you hear me say, or Bill say something and you're like, whoa, that was over my head, write it down and then ask about it. Ask about it on the Thursday calls, ask about it in the chat. Ask Matt about it right now in the chat. However you have to get your questions answered, you get them answered, because that is how you learn. Also, I'd suggest if you're newish to the idea of creative deals, maybe not new to real estate, but new to creative deal structures, you might want to consider signing up for that class in February. There's a big discount for doing it right now. And there's the website, billandkimcook.com, and that's it. So a couple of quick introductions, because some of you know me and not Bill. Some of you know Bill and not me. Some of you, I think, know none of us, because in the last couple of days, some of our friends who are creatively inclined have made posts on Facebook and whatnot saying, hey, I'm going to this and you should too. My name is Dina. I am in Cincinnati, Ohio. I am a wholesaler and a rental housing provider and a lease optioner and a person who sells deals creatively and buys notes. I own a real estate business. I have a staff of 5 people. I basically have to do a deal and a half a month just to pay the overhead. And then my goal is do 2 to 3 deals every single month. I did my very first creative deal in 1990, and I've done well over, it's probably over 1,500 total deals now, including all of those kinds of deals. And I have a hobby, which is real estate education. I'm executive director of a couple of really awesome real estate associations, Central Ohio REIA and Greater Cincinnati REIA. And I also put together a conference called the OREA Convention, which I saw a lot of you at about 2 weeks ago. Bill is from Georgia, and he describes himself as a mom and pop landlord. So he would not say that he ran a real estate business. He would say that he and his wife have investment properties. And there's a big difference. There's a big difference between investing in Ohio and investing in Georgia. There's a big difference between, I have a staff that handles a lot of the day-to-day stuff, and I do all of the day-to-day stuff. There's a big difference between, man, my goal is 3 deals a month, and yeah, my goal is to pick up enough properties that I'm happy. Which is why it seems that people learn well from us, because one of us is going at your speed, and I don't know which one it is, but it is one of us. Now, he became an ender back in 2015. So he's been in real estate about as long as I have, but in 2015, he became an ender. That might be one of the words that you want to write down and ask for a definition of, because you'll hear that a lot around here. I'll just give you the definition. It means he acquired so many rentals that he didn't need to do any more deals. His rentals covered his expenses, his lifestyle choices, everything. He could just stop doing deals and live off of the income that he was getting from his rentals for the rest of his life. And then in 2018, he very wisely predicted that we were at the top of the market. And seeing that coming, He sold off a huge chunk of his rental portfolio. He turned them into notes. So he sold them.
Which was stupid.
Still waiting for that 2018 crash, Bill.
Any day now. It's coming any day.
So he turned a lot of those properties into notes. So he got top price and he's still getting payments, only it was top 2018 price. And now in 2021, those properties are all worth like $20,000, $30,000, $40,000, $50,000 more than people owe him on them. So he's going to be using 2022 to buy 10 to 20 rental properties for himself, all creatively. That's the challenge that he has put out to himself and put out publicly. So we can all check in with him and see how he's doing on that throughout 2022. Tonight's session is going to be the hardest of all the sessions, and it's going to be hard on me and it's going to be hard on you, because this is the big one where the purpose is demonstrate the entire tool bag of creative structures and how they work in the real world. I'm going to share with you deals that I did in the last 12 months that were completely done without banks. In some cases, were done almost without money. Were done with individual human beings. And it all happened in a market where all of my competitors are complaining that they can't find deals. These aren't the only 10 deals I did last year. I actually had to pare down the number of creative deals I did last year from 15 to 10. And then we did some wholesale deals as well. So this will give you a chance to say, you know, I need to know more about this. I need to know more about this. I'm hoping for those of you that are ultimate creative graduates or who are already in the creative business, it will inspire you to spend the next month looking at the leads that you have declared dead. You talked to sellers in 2021 and they wouldn't accept your offer. Maybe this will give you some ideas about how to go back to them and say, you know, I had another thought about maybe how I could give you more money and you could be happier and I could be happy too, and make them a different offer. It's never too late until they've sold the house. So the goal was to show you 10 deals and get done by 8:25 so that graduate support class that happens at 8:30 could happen. And I kind of feel like I don't care who you are, I don't care if you've been doing this business for no years or for 30 years, if one of these examples doesn't break your brain, I have not done my job. So at some point today, as I was finishing up these slides, I realized that I was going to have to go really, really, really fast in order to share all 10 of these deals, and that you were going to have to pay really close attention, and that there was going to be basically no time for like out loud questions, and I can't monitor the chat because I'm, doing this. So if you have a question about a deal and you're going to write it down and ask it tomorrow, or try and ask Matt right now, try to name the deal. They're all named deals. Okay. If you're an ultimate grad, every single one of these structures is in your materials. So you might get lost on the specifics of like a particular deal I did. But if you go back and listen to the recordings with your manual open, it will be really clear to you what happened there. My guess is I'm going to get through 5, 6, 7 of these 10 deals. But because I recognized it early today, I already recorded the last 4 deals just in case I couldn't get to them. I already went through them all, did the slides, did the recording, and those will also be available to you tomorrow. So I want you to start out these examples with the right mindset. All right. I want you to be focused on the right thing. And the right thing isn't the numbers. I'm going to share what the numbers of the deal were. And we've got a whole week in about 4 weeks that is about how to evaluate the numbers with creative deals. It's not the details, the due diligence, title searches, inspections, all that kind of stuff. We are going to have a whole week on due diligence that you need to do before you close a creative deal. it isn't really like the negotiation. It isn't how all the back and forth went. I'm going to share some of that with you, but we've got 2 separate sessions during these 8 weeks on how to talk to sellers. The real thing that you should be focused on with each of these examples is what was the seller's situation? What was their pain point? What was driving them? What was their goal? What was the background situation going on with the property? And how did the structure that I offered them meet those pain points and those goals? So how did the structure fit with what was going on with the seller? Because these creative deal structures are not about you. They're not about, well, I know how to do a subject to, so we have to do a subject to. They're about, I know how to do a lot of things. So let me figure out which one is best for you. And we're going to also have a separate session on, if you're looking at a deal, how do you pick the right structure for it? So we're going to start easy. We're going to start with a simple owner carryback. So creative deal structuring grads, this is going to be a review for you. A seller carryback is when a seller agrees to deed you a property and you become the full legal owner, all the rights and responsibilities that any owner would have, but the seller agrees to accept all or part of the purchase price that you've negotiated in payments. I'll take $200,000 for my house and I will take it as $1,000 a month for 200 months. If I'm the seller, I just agreed to a seller carryback deal. And it's always at a certain interest rate, although that interest rate can be 0. My favorite interest rate with seller carrybacks is 0, and it's over some time period that you agree on. The seller it's not just like, okay, well, we shook hands and agreed that you're going to pay me $1,000 a month for 200 months. There's documents. There's always documents with these creative deals. And the documents here are your written promise to pay, which we call the note, and a separate piece of paper that says, oh, and if you break your promise to pay, I have a security interest in the property. I'm the seller. I have a security interest in the property that lets me take it to foreclosure to get paid back, which where I live is called the mortgage, where Bill lives is called the security deed. Okay, so let's get to the deal. This is a building lot, which that was a first for me. I've never invested in a building lot before. Furthermore, it is in Northport, Florida, which is in Sarasota County, which is roughly, 800 miles from me. And I definitely have never invested in a property 800 miles away from me. So this was a first deal for me. I found it because a colleague of mine called me up and he wanted to talk about an offer that he'd gotten on the lot from a wholesaler for $12,000. And as we were talking about this offer and the pros and cons of taking it or countering it or rejecting it or whatever, the things that were causing him to potentially want to sell at this price came out. So these are those pain points I said to focus on. All right. Number one, he lives in Ohio and doesn't have any use for a lot in Florida. Number two, he's kind of pained by, he believes that he overpaid for it when he bought it 6 years ago. I'm not really sure that's true. I think he paid full price, but I don't think he paid more than full price at $9,500. This deal is in his IRA and it is producing no income, but every 6 months his IRA has to write a tax check to the county. And he has to pay the fees to keep his IRA open. And this is the only asset in it. He'd had a bunch of unsolicited offers from wholesalers in the past, and they were anywhere from like $500 to $8,500. So his thought with this $12,000 offer is, well, if I took this, I could almost get all of my money back. And it's the highest offer I've seen. So what do you think? Should I take it? So I said, well, let me ask you something. If I could pay you $14,000 and do that in payments of $103.21 a month for the next 15 years, And I didn't say what the interest rate was, but I calculated that at 4%. And I were to pay all the taxes after the closing, wouldn't that get you more money? In fact, recoup your entire investment plus interest, let you sleep at night, and give you a net positive income for your IRA even after the annual fees? And he said, yes, it would. Tell me more. Now, just as a side note here, that thing that I said to him about, if I did this, wouldn't it change your position from this bad one that you're in to a better one that you'd like to be in? That is called a T-bar negotiation technique. And it's really, 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 really powerful. And most of you aren't using it. And that is the topic next week that Bill is going to talk about. So.
Wait, Bean, I want to throw in my 2 cents here. Just so everybody knows, when I'm meeting with a seller, the most important document I use is a T-bar. You do not want to miss next Wednesday's meeting. So you'll see a number of T-bars in action, how they're developed, and that helps me structure the deal too.
Yep. When you pull them out, what they look like everything. Okay. So what was my thinking in making this offer on this lot that at that point I hadn't even seen a picture of? I didn't really want to, do I want a lot in Florida? It depends, right? All right. So here was my thinking. I did run comps, and there are lots of the same exact square footage in the same subdivision selling for $18,000 to $24,000. So 14 seemed like a pretty good price. Like I could at least sell it for that, right? I don't want to build in Florida, but I know people in Florida who either build or who know people who build. So I figured I've got this resource. I should be able to find somebody who wants this lot, hopefully at a higher price. The fact that I offered, so basically no money down, this super low payment, this low interest rate, and gave myself a long time to pay it off means I can sit on it for months waiting to decide what to do, solicit offers, see who's got the best offer for me. And also, I just have a rule that I've only had this rule for about the last 18 months, that if I hear an opportunity, if I hear that a person has a problem in a property, I'm just going to tell them what I could do for them to solve it. And I'm not going to get offended if they say no. But if I think I've got a better solution than the one they're contemplating, I'm going to say, what about this? Would this work better? And I do that about, 10 times a week. And about once every 2 weeks, somebody says yes. Just in a conversation, somebody says, yes, I would like to do that with you. So what am I going to do next? Well, at this moment, I have a couple of options on the table. Like these are actual things that have been presented as options. Don't know if I'll do one of these or something else, but I talked to a guy in Florida who knows a developer who's interested in maybe having me just give him the land with an agreement that when he's finished building the house on it, that I get 10% of the back end profits when he sells the house, which I think is going to be more than what I might make doing something else with it. Second option is sell it to the neighbor so that they can have a double-sized lot and I would be selling it for $25,000. And I would be selling that at $250 a month for 15 years. So now I've got $147 a month in income with no maintenance, no taxes, no insurance, no nothing. And the third option that has been offered to me that's really interesting to me is somebody said, I would take your lot as a down payment on a rental house that I have. So you would own the rental house, I'd finance it, and the lot would be your down payment. I'm like, well, I like rental houses. So it will probably develop into something else, but those are the options that are out there right now. So what lessons should you be taking away from this deal? Number one, build relationships with your fellow investors, especially when they are creatively inclined. You will not hear about other people's uncomfortable situations unless you are talking to other human beings. Join your local real estate association, attend, go to conferences, go to workshops, and don't just sit there when there's a break call. Don't just sit there and arrange your notes. Go talk to people and find out what's going on with them, because very, very often when you do that, you will hear them tell stories about a property they don't like. If you hear a seller with a problem, tell them what you can do for them, even if you haven't been asked to tell them if you hear the guy in the next cubicle saying, man, I really wish we get rid of my mother-in-law's property, but it needs so much clean out. Stick your head over and say, well, tell me what you're looking for. Maybe I can help you out. There's this feeling out there amongst people who haven't done a lot of creative deals that sellers want big down payments and they want high interest rates if they're going to finance houses for you. That is absolutely 100% not true. That is in your head. It is not in their head. Because it's in your head, you're afraid to offer things like 4% interest rates and no money down deals. Don't try to think for your seller. Ask a lot of questions of your seller and find out what their real pain is all about. Second deal, also relatively simple. This is a subject to deal, which, for your review, is when the seller agrees to deed you their property. You become the legal owner, all the rights and responsibilities of any owner, but the two of you also agree that his note that he already has, his mortgage and note, will not be paid off when the deed transfers. You're just going to, going forward, make the payments to his bank on his loan, and his bank will still have his mortgage on his house. So you and the seller are going to agree over here that you're going to make the payments from now on. Nobody's going to say anything to the bank at all. They're just going to start getting checks from you. Now, if that whole concept is brand new to you, then you're new. Hang around till 8:25, because the door prize tonight is a complete how to do subject twos course, and subject twos are probably the creative structure that I use most often right now, because there are so many 3.5% and 4.5% loans out there to be taken over. So my deal is a 2-bedroom, 2-bath condo. It's in a nice little condo development in a little city just to the west of me called Lawrenceburg, Indiana. I found it because I do direct mail. And this particular piece of direct mail went to this particular seller because he is an out-of-state owner. He called, talked about his story, his problem, his pain point, and this was it. He used to live in this place. He had a job here in the Cincinnati area. He bought the place thinking he'd be here for a while, and then he got transferred to California, which is quite a ways away. He decided to hold on to the condo as a rental, but then when he got out to California, he started getting worried about, well, I don't want to have to get new tenants every year. So what I'm going to do, thinkest this guy who has never owned a rental before, is I'm going to try and get somebody to sign a 3-year lease by giving them $300 a month under market payments. So when he called, he had a tenant who was paying $300 under market, whose rent could not be raised and she could not be removed as long as she kept paying the rent for 32 more months. Does that cause a problem in selling your condo when no homeowner can move in because for 32 more months, somebody else has the right to occupy it, and when no investor can turn around and raise the rent to market for 32 more months? So that had created the problem that with his mortgage payments and the HOA fee, he was losing $281 every month. And that was if there wasn't any maintenance. That was if the dishwasher didn't go bad or something. But despite all of this, he still wanted pretty close to market price for it. So having heard all of this and gotten all the details, my first offer to him was actually a 3-part offer. I said, okay, so if you want cash, all I can pay you is $60,000. I heard you say you want 89, but if it's all cash, what I can pay you is 60. If you will let me take over your mortgage, which was only $45,000, and make those payments for the next 13 years, I will pay you 70. And the way I will pay you the other 25,000 is once I have paid the last payment on your mortgage, I will then start sending you $500 every month, and I will send you that for 50 months, and that will make up the other 25,000. But you're going to wait 13 years before you get your first payment. Your third option is, if you wanted to go and refinance this property into a lower rate, longer term loan, that would bring the payment down to the point where the property would at least break even. You would get cash out, because if you refinance for 80 and you only owe 45, there's $35,000 for you. And then I would take over that new loan. Well, so I'll tell you my logic there, and then I'll tell you what happened. My logic in that offer was, okay, fair market value from the comps was about $99,000. I didn't want to pay him $99,000 because of the situation that he had created, where the property basically could not make any money for almost 3 years. The fair market rent was $10.50, but the actual rent was $7.30. What he was asking was $89. That was his discount. He's like, I know, that's got a tenant in it, so I give you a break and only charge $89,000 for it. I had already found out that his mortgage balance was 45 and that it had 13 years left. And I'd already found out, and this was from him, that his payment was $591 a month and that his interest rate was 5.5%. So that was how I did that math to say, I can pay you 60 for cash, 70 if you'll let me make your payment, and then let me pay you the rest after that, or 80 if you will refinance your high rate short-term loan into a lower rate loan. I know he doesn't want 60. He wants 89. But I also know he wants cash. So I'm going to give him the opportunity to get cash. All right, fine. You want cash? The cash is $60,000. And I would just wholesale the property if I got it for 60. I know he wants 89 and that I can get closer to that, but not for cash. I can only get closer to that with terms. And the terms have to be attractive, like little or no money up front, because of the 3-year negative cash flow situation he had created. So, Bill, what is that called when you say my price, your terms, your price, my terms?
Well, a teeter-totter offer.
And are you going to talk about that next week?
I am going to talk about that next week. And I'm having so much fun on the discussion board. I'm saying funny things about you, and I'm being hilarious.
I am so looking forward to reading that afterwards. So the reason I made the 3 offers was I knew that 60 wasn't going to probably make it with him, but that he wanted a cash offer, so I gave him one. I knew that 80 was much closer to what he wanted, but it wasn't cash. So here's 3 options. You tell me which one. Sadly, he said none of them. He said, I'm going to keep trying to sell it for $89,000 cash. So why am I telling you this story? Because one of the most important things you learn in the real estate business is no only means no for right now. After touching base with this guy every month for 9 consecutive months, his whole life had completely changed. He had remarried. His wife just wanted to travel the world. He quit his job. He was traveling the world. He had discovered that it is very, very hard to get maintenance guys scheduled when you are halfway around the world in Bali on literally opposite time. So he took offer number 3 after 9 months. He refinanced the property, got about $40,000 in cash out of that refi. He got payments that were $718 a month, principal, interest, taxes, insurance, and HOA, which still isn't a positive cash flow, but is really, really close to break even. And then I bought the house subject to his new loan, and it cost me a total of $1,200 in closing costs to do that. So what's happening now? We're waiting for the tenant's lease to expire. She's got about 16 more months on that lease. And then I can rent it for it's actually, we'll rent for more now than it would have a year ago. And after everything, I will have $400 a month in positive cash flow on that condo that I put $1,200 up front to buy. So what are the lessons here? I had this guy's whole life story. How? I asked him lots and lots of questions, because that's how you're able to know, well, the possibility here is have him refinance and then buy it subject to. Follow up even when you're pretty certain that no means no, because people's lives change. And the third lesson is maybe try out that multiple offer strategy. Make not one offer, but 2 offers, and let the seller decide which one he likes the best. All right, this one's a little more complicated, but you should be able to follow it if you can follow a subject to deal, because this one involves a subject to and also a private loan. Review on private loan. A private loan is a loan made by a third party and secured by a piece of real estate, but it doesn't come from a bank. It comes from a private investor. This is different than a hard money loan. Hard money loans are very short term. They're very high interest rate. People who make private loans are usually interested in having their money invested for a longer period of time. And they don't need those super high double-digit interest rates because they're getting them constantly. They're not getting them for 4 months and then the property sells and they have to wait for 3 months to find another deal they like. The terms are completely negotiated between you and your private lender. And we are doing a class, I believe it is week 7, on how to find and work with private lenders. So this little house, it's a little house, 4 rooms, 2 bedrooms, 780 square feet. It's a C+ to B- rental neighborhood. I found the seller by direct mail. It was to an inherited properties list. Boy, she called and she was at the end of her rope with this property. Her mother had died about a year earlier. This daughter had paid for the funeral expenses and had been making the mortgage payments on her mom's house for a year. And when her mom passed away, her handicapped brother, who had lived with her mom, came to live with her. So now she was taking care of her brother as well. And these were her words. She said, I have everything I want out of the house. I don't ever want to see it again. Give me the $10,000 back that I spent on the funeral and the mortgage, and you can have it. So what offer do you make to that seller? Well, the offer I made was, what if we gave you $10,000 and then just took over your mom's loan and paid it from now on? And what if we came by your house to pick up the keys to go see it so that you never have to go back there again? Why that particular offer? Okay, so this house is worth $115 fixed up. It needed $30,000 in work to be worth $115. It'll rent for $925 to $950 fixed up. The seller's mom's mortgage balance, according to the seller, was $18,000, and it pays off in 2026. I like that. The payment on the mortgage is $517 a month, principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. It's got a 4.5% interest rate. So at $925 a month, the property would definitely cash flow. And the reason it was written the way it was, we will give you $10,000 and take over your mortgage, was because she didn't want $28,000. She wanted $10,000 and to never see the property again. That's what she said she wanted. So during the due diligence process, where we were actually reviewing the terms of the mortgage, we got a little surprise. And the little surprise was she was wrong about the mortgage balance. It was not $18,000. It was just short of $16,000. So when you've written a contract that says, I will give you $10,000 and pay off your mortgage, and now the mortgage turns out to be less, what does that mean? That means you just got a house $2,000 cheaper than you thought that you were going to get that house. And that's exactly what happened. That was a pleasant surprise. So the problem for me, though, is that now I've got to come up with $10,000 to make the down payment and $30,000 to make the repairs. And I rarely have $40,000 in spare change sitting around. If I gather up $20,000, I find a place to invest it. So I got a private loan to cover the difference. It's a second mortgage on top of the mom's old mortgage. We got a second mortgage at 8% interest with a 20-year term, and the payments are $334 a month. Now, of course, the issue there is that's on top of the $517 a month principal, interest, taxes, and insurance. So that's a total of $851 a month, which means that there's not going to be much cash flow on this property for 5 years. And then what happens in 5 years? The first mortgage goes away, right? So can you take no cash flow for 5 years to have a house in 5 years where the payment is only $334 because only that second mortgage is still there, and of course it becomes the first mortgage. Now, if you don't understand why a house renting for $925 with payments of $851 is break even at best, make sure that you come to that week where we talk about how to evaluate the deal, because it is break even at best. So my initial thought was, you know what, 5 years with no cash flow is okay. We're getting $59,000 in equity. And then after year 5, it's going to make at least $300 a month net, probably more because the rent will be higher. But then something else happened. About 90% of the way through a guy named Chuck, who my partner and I have done a lot of business with over the years, called, and he said, I have $50,000 sitting in my IRA and I'd like to buy a house with it. Do you have any houses for $50,000? And my partner said, yeah, if you have a time machine and we can go back to 2012, we can sell you a house for $50,000. And I said, you know what? We don't have a $50,000 house, but what we do have is a house that we might let his IRA have for $50,000 down, and it'll be turnkey in another couple of weeks. So what's happening with this deal is that Chuck's IRA is lease optioning it. Now, the reason we set up the structure that way as a lease option instead of like financing it to him is because if Chuck's IRA lease options it, there is no UBIT tax for Chuck, which is going to save him a lot of money. And also, if we lease option it to him, then we haven't sold it. So we can take depreciation and long-term capital gains treatment on it. The terms are $113,900 price. He's putting down a $50,000 option fee. I think he might have done that today or he's doing it tomorrow, which will pay off the private loan and also give us $10,000 in cash. His rent is $650 a month. We are giving him a $240 a month rent credit that pays down his balance. That creates about $200 a month in actual cash flow for Chuck. Plus he's paying down the amount he owes by $240 a month. It creates about $132 a month for me. No maintenance, no expenses, no management. until the subject to pays off, and then it creates $560 a month for me. We're going to talk more about doing deals in your retirement plans and helping you build your friends and family's retirement plans with these creative deals in week 6. So, lessons. Listen to everything your seller says, not just the numbers. I'm pretty sure that the reason we got this deal, despite the fact that lots of people mail the inherited list, is because we said, how about if we do what you want and also come pick up the keys from you so you do not have to visit this house that you never wanted to visit again? Always check the mortgage balances as part of your due diligence. Sellers often don't actually know what they owe on a property. Also, if you've got a deal, but you're short of the cash to finish it, maybe you're short of the down payment or you're short of the repair costs, you can get that money. Okay. It is available to you if you have these relationships built from a private lender or a partner. All right. Deal 4, still a subject to, but a little bit of a different structure. This was a subject to plus a partner. Now, partners are also third-party sources of money, or they can be sources of work, or they can be sources of knowledge. But unlike a private lender, they own part of your deal as a result of their help with it. So a private lender has a lien, a partner has an ownership interest. There are lots of ways that partnerships can be structured. Partners are something we don't use often enough in our business because we're like, oh, I want to own the whole deal myself. Oh, no, you don't. You just think you do. You want to own deals with other people that you like and trust and who have things you don't have and are willing to do things you are not willing to do. Example. This is a great house. It is a 7-room, 4-bedroom, 2-bath. It's in an A neighborhood. I don't know why I said A minus. It's A, man. It is my perfect rental. It is a ranch house. It is a very high income area. I found this deal in a kind of an interesting way. I got this call out of the blue from a seller who said she had been referred by an agent. That is not, I don't get tons and tons of calls like that, but it turned out that the story was the seller was a co-executor and a guardian to the children of a woman who had passed away. The mom bought the house to rehab it, but she did not get very far in the rehab before she died. The guardian wanted to list it. So the agent came and looked at it and said, there's a foundation problem here. You need to get an inspection. And surprise, 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 the foundation company found a big, huge, giant foundation problem that was going to cost $25,000 to fix and must be fixed or the house is going to fall into the center of the earth or something. And so the agent said, oh man, no homeowner's going to want this. So you need to sell it to an investor. And I know one, and here's her name. Another little factoid here was that no one had been making the mortgage payments since mom died. So the mortgage was about $8,900 in arrears, and the asking price, given the fact that it was, had this giant structural problem, was $200,000. So the offer I made was, I will give you $200,000. I will take over your friend's loan. I'll make up the back payments, and the difference between the back payments, the loan amount, and $200,000, I'll give you in cash. Her response was, that sounds good. I just need to run it past the estate attorney. And guys, don't be afraid of attorneys. People hear that and they go, oh my God, the attorney's never going to prove it. The attorney was like, yeah, it looks good to me. What's the harm in taking over a dead person's loan? So why did I make that particular offer? Okay, ARV on this house, $375. Repair costs $70. But that was because it was a rehab. There was no foundation problem. Why would a foundation company say, you need to hire us for $25,000 to fix foundation problem when there was no foundation problem? Gee, I don't know. There was one little leak in one little corner of the house that was caused by the gutters going the wrong direction. There was no foundation problem. Her asking price was only 65% of the after repaired value minus the repair cost, so no objection to her asking price. The deceased owner's loan was 183 at 4.625%, 1454 a month, and 28 and a half years remaining. And we knew that the thing would rent, even though there were hardly any rent comps in the area, we knew it'd rent for $2,400 a month. So I don't know. I like those numbers. What do you think? The problem is I am no more capable of doing a $70,000 rehab on an A property than I am of flying. It is way out of my league. I do not do that kind of rehab, that level of rehab, and I certainly don't typically do it on A property. So I called my favorite local rehabber and I said, how would you like to own half of a $375,000 rental by putting in $70,000 in cash and managing the rehab? And she said, well, sounds suspicious. Tell me more. And I told her all about the numbers and that we were going to be taking a loan and that I would pay the down payment and I would pay the payments. And we set up the partnership as a joint venture agreement. Each of our companies owns half the deal. My partner and I paid the down payment. We paid the difference that went in cash to the guardian. And we made all the payments while the house was under rehab. Our partner, who loves rehabbing A properties, paid for and completed all the rehab. Am I willing to give away half a deal to not have to deal with that? Yes, I am. You may not be willing to. In fact, you may be saying, I'll do that. Find me a deal like that and let me rehab it and I'll split it with you. The property went up for rent at the beginning of November. We thought, we'll see if it works at 2,900. If not, we'll drop it down. It rented within 48 hours. Each of us, so my side, me and my partner, and her side, her and her husband, have a monthly net income net of everything of $433 a month. So on me and Drew's investment, which including the payments that we made during the rehab, the upfront payments, all that sort of stuff, was $27,600. It's an 18.8% cash return for us and is a 7.4% cash on cash return for them. And you might be saying, that's not fair. They should be getting the same return. Okay, you're thinking wrong. They're not just getting their cash on cash return. They now have tax breaks they didn't have before because they didn't own any rentals before. They have half the appreciation. They have half the mortgage pay down. So the lessons here are, if you have relationships with people who you like and who like and are good at things that you don't like and aren't good at, you can split up the benefits and responsibilities of ownership using partnerships. Not everybody wants the same thing. Like some benefits are more valuable to your partner than they are to you. Some benefits, like you might say, man, I'm only in this for the cash flow. And your partner might say, you could take all the cash flow because what I'm in it for is the growth. Partnerships don't have to be 50-50. They don't have to be 50-50 in terms of how much cash you're putting in. Well, Vina, you should have put in $70,000 cash. No, I structured the deal. I had the deal. I put in $27,000 cash and I structured the deal. That was my contribution. Part of it was my knowledge. All right, this is the last one we're going to be able to get to. So it's a good thing I recorded the last 5. This is a subject to with an owner carryback. It's a 7-room, 4-bedroom, 2-bath house in the middle of Nowhereville, Ohio. It's outside a little city called Bethel. It is super rural. The house has 17 acres with it. It is not my ideal rental. It is way too far away to be something that I want to manage. I found it with an expired listing postcard. When listings expire, I send those people a postcard and say, hey, do you still want to sell? Because I might be able to work out something that other people couldn't work out for you. That was summer of 2019 that the house was listed. And so the seller called and said, yes, I do still want to sell my house. And, lots of questions, got the story. She and her husband had lived in the house for many, many years, like since the 1970s. Her husband died 2 years before this conversation. She had moved to Phoenix. Her intention all along was sell this house, but she had this niece who had some mental health challenges and needed a place to stay for a while until she could find a place. And that was supposed to be temporary. It was 2 years later, and the niece wasn't paying for anything, like no utilities, no lands, nothing. She was paying for nothing, no mortgage payment. And she did not show any signs of wanting to change her free living situation. So what we had here was a seller who had been paying a mortgage payment, taxes, insurance, utilities. Every time something broke, she was paying for that. $1,500 a month for 24 months this had been going on. But she was very sensitive to, I don't want to throw my niece out. I don't want her set out on the street. I've still got to find herself a place to live. Oh, and also my agent told me it would sell for $280, so I want $250 for it. So those were some things that we needed to overcome. So spring of 2019, our first evaluation. Venus cheating. She said these deals were in the last 12 months. Hold on. They were all in the last 12 months. The after repaired value at that time was $225. Going out and looking at it, after repaired meant $50,000 in repairs, mostly cosmetic stuff, but 50 grand. Her loan balance was $99,000, 5% interest, payments of $1,168 a month, and those payments did include taxes and insurance. I thought the property would probably rent for $1,400 to $1,600 a month. And the question I was asking myself was, how do I make this work without having to rehab a house that's 45 minutes away, without having to manage a house that's 45 minutes away? So that's the background for this offer. In spring of 2019, I said, I can give you a cash offer for $100,000, or I can give you $150. The way I can give you $150 is I take over your $99,000 loan and I pay you an extra $500 every month to make up the approximately $51,000 difference. So you'll get 102 payments or whatever that works out to of $500 a month. So that structure, if we were trying to put a name on it, would be subject to, and the owner is going to carry back a second at 0% interest. That was a hard no. She was just not interested in that offer at all. But what did we say about hard no's? Follow up. Every month for the next 6 months, this gal got a follow-up call, just, hey, checking in, wondering if you sold the house, wondering how your niece is doing. How are you doing? You staying healthy? So in fall of 2019, she said, look, I would consider your offer, but I need some cash up front. Well, what are you going to do with that cash? Well, that's not what it's about. I just want to make sure you're serious. Okay, how about this? I'll give you $160 with 10 down, take over your $99,000 loan and pay you the $500 a month difference in just monthly payments to make up the balance. And she said, yes, I will take that. Woohoo! Yay! Gonna get a deal now. Yeah. So then what happened was we sent her the contract and she disappeared off the face of the earth. She would not return calls, texts, letters, wouldn't return the contract we'd sent her. So what do? Well, 6 months of leaving voicemails about, hey, just checking in with you, want to make sure you're okay. And now we're into spring of last year. She finally answers the phone and says, I need to sell it, but my niece won't move. So I'm going to have to fly out there, find her a place, get her situated, and then we can sign an agreement. So you see a seller problem, you overcome it. Look, we're much better situated to find her a place than you are because we're here and we know a lot of people who rent properties. So How about if we find her a place and we guarantee that she can stay there for up to 3 months after we close, and we won't kick her out while we're finding her a place? And she said, that's perfect. Let's do that. So we sent her another contract and she disappeared again. So another, I don't know, 7 months of check-in calls and texts. It's now winter 2020. It's now December of 2020. And she calls and she says, I think my niece might be taking advantage of me and I should probably just sell. So we wrote her a new offer because now her mortgage had dropped by $3,000. So it was, yes, 160, subject to your $96,000 loan, $10,000 down, $500 a month to pay off the new difference, which is now, $3,000 more than it was before. And your niece can stay as long as she needs to. We will find her a new place, but until she moves, we don't make any payments. We'll close. We will find her a place. Until then, you're going to keep making the mortgage payments and you're not getting your $500 a month. That starts happening after we get your niece, who's apparently determined to live here forever, out of this house. So we finally closed in December of 2020. And we reached out into our local network and said, who's got a little house in Bethel that this gal could move into? And we found one right away. Weird that the niece couldn't find one in 3 years, but we found one right away. The housing provider even helped her move. She was out of the property by January of 2021. But guess what had happened to the market in the 18 months it took to put this deal together? That house was comping at $350,000 by January of this year. So I sold the property as is, as a handyman special on land contract. My buyer has a $255,000 purchase price and put $25,000 down. So that $10,000 I put out in December, I got back in January, along with $15,000 more dollars to keep it company. The land contract buyer, and some of you guys might call this a contract for deed. We call them land contracts here, or a bond for deed. We call them land contracts here in Ohio. Our buyer's interest rate is 7.5%. So they are paying $1,969 a month. I am taking $1,168 of that a month and sending it to my seller's bank. I'm taking $500 of it a month and sending it to my seller, and I'm keeping $301. No management, no maintenance, got $15,000 more than I started with. Yay. Oh, and in month 54, that $500 a month payment expires. So I keep getting my $1,969 payments, but I pay $500 less every month. So lessons: follow up, follow up, follow up, follow up. If something is holding back the seller from signing a contract or saying yes to your offer, see if you can fix it, even if it seems like it's beyond your pay grade, like finding their niece a new house. Sometimes one creative strategy won't work. In this case, just doing a subject to would have meant putting $60-something thousand down. But the subject to plus the owner carrying worked. And sometimes the hot market works for you. The fact that she delayed for 18 months made this a more profitable deal. All right, so we're going to skip through some slides here, but if you came in late, I was kind of expecting not to get through all 10 deals, and I pre-recorded the same set of things on all of these deals earlier today, and they are going to come in your email tomorrow, along with the link to get on the Q&A call tomorrow at noon Eastern time. Get some good examples in here. I just bit off more than I could chew by saying it's going to be 10 deals in 85 minutes. But as I said, you'll get to this tomorrow. I got a door prize to give away, so I got to get to the end of this here. Okay. Oh, and the last example, by the way, is me buying a house that I'm going to live in without using a bank or any of my own money. So if you're just looking for a house to live in, you can probably use these strategies too. Okay, so I know that even getting through half of what I wanted to get through, some of you are going, oh my God, my brain's exploding. How did she think to do those things? The whole purpose was to show you how to use the tools that are available to you in creative deal structuring, and how to use them in combination with each other, and how to use them in unusual ways. So this and the pre-recorded piece that you'll get tomorrow are really going to lay the groundwork for stuff we'll be talking about in the next 7 sessions. I also hope that if you are not one of the Ultimate Creative Deal Structuring Workshop graduates that this whole thing was really set up for to begin with, that it encourages you to maybe think about coming to that, because at that event, we have 3 days together. And we don't just like throw out examples. It's okay, let's talk about what an option is. Let's talk about what it does. Let's talk about what the contracts look like. Let's talk about what the function is. Let's talk about how to negotiate them. Let's talk about what kind of sellers do this. And we do that for a bunch of different kinds of structures: owner carryback, subject to use options, lease options, private loans, partnerships. We really have time, Bill and I, to talk about them beginning to end. And again, we bring different perspectives to each of these things. So you get to kind of hear, how does Bill do it? How do I do it? How do other people in the class do it? All of the documents for all of these things are included with the class. And we also talk about that kind of side stuff, like how do you find these sellers? Bill and I do that very differently. What do the conversations sound like? All right, so you said you offered $500 a month as the payment. Why did you come up with that number? That's, with 3 days, we can talk about things like that. There's really not a reason you couldn't come, because although it is in Tampa, which that's what I'm most looking forward to, is not being in Ohio in February. It's on February 5th, 4th, 5th, and 6th, but we're going to be simulcasting it as well. So you don't actually have to come to Tampa. You can attend sitting at your computer on February 4th, 5th, and 6th. Everyone who's registered gets all the recordings of the full 3 days, and the forms and the contracts and the documentation. If you sign up before the first of the year, it's actually a lot cheaper. After January 1st, if we have any seats left, which we don't expect to, it's $1,597 for one person. And if you want to bring a spouse or family member or a partner, it's $300 more. But before January 1st, it's $1,297 for one person or $1,597 for 2 people. And Bill and I always have a full 100% money back satisfaction guarantee. You come to all 3 days, and if you don't end Sunday going, man, I am ready to go home and make these deals, I know how to do them, I know the kind of deals I want to do, just ask for your money back and we won't even question you. We'll just give it back to you. If you're going to come in person, that means you have a plane ticket probably and a hotel room that you have to buy. So we'll give you a $300 travel allowance if you want to come in person. So before the first of the year, and while there are seats left, it's $997 for one or $1,297 if you're bringing a spouse or family member or business partner. Now, you guys who are previous attendees, you know that your price is much less. It's always less to re-attend. You can go to billandkimcook.com and read up on the details and the agenda and all of that sort of stuff. And previous attendees go there too, because we're not like saving seats for you. We're not saying, well, we know all of our alumni are coming back. Y'all need to pre-register, and for God's sakes, book your hotel room. We've had to extend the hotel block once already, and we are probably going to have to extend it again because that room block is filling up super fast, and the class is over halfway full right now. All right, Bill, before we give away this door prize, because Matt's we've got one of those random name generator things, and Matt has to.
This is a random name generator thing. That's what it looks like. A random name. This is what it looks like.
I can't see you.
Okay, never mind. You were just doing your hand really funny.
No,
Everybody
no,
else can
Matt's
see me and they're laughing. You're just
Matt's
doing this.
Matt's over here. He's got to actually see who's still on because it's only for people who stayed on to the end. And he's going to draw a name, and then
There's like 830 people on this call.
I know you better draw a second and third name, because if I call out your name and you don't respond and say you're here, I'm moving on to the second name. Anything you wanted to add to this discussion?
I thought it was a great presentation. Yeah, we were answering questions on the side. I gave everybody, you can see my phone number there, so you're welcome to give me a call tomorrow. Don't listen to what Matthew tells you. Don't text me to see if you can call me. Don't text me with the question, because I'm going to have a lot of questions for you. So if you did get a little bit lost today, you're like, how does this work? Please, give me a phone call. Happy to help.
Or
but you did a great job. You did a great job. This was a great meeting. First one, and it worked.
Yes, it did work. Okay, guys, you don't have to tell me you're here, because Matt's drawing the name, and then if it's your name, I'm going to call out, and then you can say, I'm here. All right, so somebody is about to win an online course. So it's a manual. It's 6 hours of video, it's forms, it's contracts, it's super complete, and it is about one creative deal structure, subject twos. All right. Have you got a name for me yet? I'm like tap dancing here. This thing actually, it goes.
And while you're waiting on the machine, everybody that liked the bobbleheads, give it a thumbs up, because everybody told me that the bobbleheads would work. I'm telling you, the bobbleheads played. The bobbleheads worked.
You are obsessed with those bobbleheads. Bill made the
bobbleheads.
Bill made the bobbleheads, and he's very, very proud of them. Okay, so everybody stop obeying Bill. That's like rule number one, is just don't obey Bill. Because I'm going to say a name, and y'all are thumbs upping so fast that if he's here, he's not going to get to tell me he's here. Yes, that's right. No obeying Bill.
Red, may I interject a moment?
Yes.
Okay. We understand everyone's muted, folks. That's a feature, not a bug. We can tell if you're still here. So don't panic.
They have to be here and paying attention.
Well, I understand, but yes, if they're still here, we will unmute you and you can gush all over Vina and Bill. So don't worry about it, and don't start unmuting yourselves, or I will lock this down.
Okay. So the name that the thing drew first is Rick Brand. Rick Brand. So Mr. Drew, if you see him still in the list, you could unmute him. No, we don't know that Rick has won yet, because I haven't heard from Rick. If he just turned on the computer and walked away. You're here? Is that Rick? Here. All right, Rick, where are you from?
Yes.
From where? Man, he's
Palm Beach, California.
Oh, Palm Beach, California. Awesome. All right. So we're going to grab the email address that you put on Zoom to deliver this course to you. You'll get a link tomorrow to log into it. You're going to use it, right? I didn't just waste a giveaway. You're actually going to you're going to go through it. You're going to go out and make subject to offers, because it's a waste of your time and mine and everybody else's if you don't. But you can make some good money in California doing subject twos. You can make some good money anywhere. Paul says there's a party at your house now. All right. So to review, you guys who are alumni, we are doing your support call after this. It will be on the usual login. So if you have deals that you want to put out there and see if there's a better way to structure them, Bill and I will be there to help you do that. Everybody else, you're going to get an email in the morning. The email will say, here is your link to the presentation you just saw. And also here is your link to the ones that Vina had to skip because she ran out of time, because she always thinks she can talk faster than she actually can. There will also be a link to the Q&A call tomorrow at noon Eastern time, So, and Matt's going to repost that, but you guys are posting stuff so fast that you may, okay. A lot of people saying, what was the course for subject 2? Okay. So this is a class that I did last year, and I did it on Zoom, and it was a whole day. We sat there from 9 a.m. to 4 p.m, just subject 2s. I think it's available on my website. I think if you go to regatas.com, somewhere on there's a way to buy it. And if not, I'll find a way for you to buy it. But Rick won it. Yay, Rick. And we're giving away door prizes at the end of every session. And one of the door prizes is going door knocking with Bill. And one of the door prizes is seats at Ultimate Creative. So y'all are gonna don't just show up, stay, okay? All right, I'm getting a lot of yes, I'm interested, post a link. Boy, I wish I was prepared to do that. How about we add that to the email in the morning? Because I don't know where it is. It's probably under products. It's regatas.com. It's probably, oh, you do have a link for subject 2? You have one for subject 2?
Yeah.
And it's a link to buy it. It's not going to like just give them access to the course. Okay.
Oh no, we're for profit.
Matt's going to post that. So hope you guys got some good stuff, some good ideas. Remember, a really good thing to do with this information would be look through your leads from 2021 and call some of them back and say, hey, how about if we did it this other way instead? And we will see you next week. And we hope to see you on February 4th through 6th in Tampa, if you are lucky enough to grab one of those seats. All right, guys, we are going to call it a night. We need to end this one so that we can do the Zoom for the alumni. Hopefully you'll be an alumni here soon. And thanks, Bill, for sitting there quietly all evening. I look forward to
my pleasure. That was a great meeting. Thank you. And thank you, Matthew. And thank you for the team. Thank you, Drew. Thank you, Bev. Everybody did a great job.
All right. Thanks, guys. Appreciate it. See you alumni in about 5 minutes. Bye-bye, everybody. Good night.